Welcome to the fourth unit, Environment Management Plan. So far, we have discussed about the basics about EIA, introduction to EIA, and then talked about different methods used for that. Then a social impact assessment, SIA. Now, we talk about Environment Management Plan. How do you manage that? So here we are going to discuss on what is environmental management plan, how do you prepare that, what is implementation of that, how review that, what is mitigation and rehabilitation plans, what is policy and guidelines for planning and monitoring programs, or for the post-project audit. Once project implement executed, what is the post-project audit, what is ethical and quality aspects of environmental impact assessment, called EMS, management plans, environmental impact assessment, environmental management schemes, and then for the latest trend, for the ISO, and for the environmental audit. Environmental management, which involves, we'll talk about what is definition, introduction of the definition of the what, and some discussion and methodology about that. Environmental management reduces the risk of pollutions, right? We discussed about that in SIA, that you have a strategic approach, you can have strategic mitigations, or you have a mitigation by management. So, and or mitigation by design. And so management means what type of managerial decisions can be taken to reduce it, or implementation perspective, not technological point of view, not design point of view. It is just a mostly management point or strategic point of view. It's mostly management perspective. So it reduces the risk of pollutions to the environment and improve the sustainable management of environmental resources. Environmental management during construction, operation and occupation, or and restoration by environmental management plan. Talk about that. And environmental management in EIA makes commitment to mitigations and environmental protection in a systematic, transparent way. So here we are talking about three things. One, purpose of environmental management is to reduce the pollutions, improve sustainability. There are two things: resources sustainability and pollution reductions. And it is also, that's why it's used in construction stage, in operation stage, and restoration stage. All stages it is used, and it also helps to make the deeper commitment for the mitigation measures what is promised in area. So links to environmental management systems, environmental schemes, systems, EMS. Here we saw that EMS, ethical quality aspects and environmental impact assessment in environmental management system. What is environmental management system? Systems. So it is adapted. EM leads to EMS, adapted for industrial activities or processes and their organization procedures. So now systems means is detailed procedural informations, policy informations, environmental or industrial activities or processes and the organizational procedures, whatever organizations, whatever procedures, organizational procedures to be followed. Independently audited against formally accredited systems such as MAS or ISO. ISO 14000 we discussed before, it consists of the environmental management system plans. So based on this, then EM part of the organization policies, protocols and culture. So it can be part of the policies of the organization and can be protocols which everybody needs to follow that, spell out protocols, and also culture also based on that. People live their interaction with each other based on that. EM can form a part of that. Facilities the environmental management, facilitates the environmental management of site preparation, construction, interface, because this will help us. And then additional reassurance of regulation in public. So the many definitions: EMP, generic term, environmental management plan, which refers to construction period. Also, it can generally refer to arrangements for environmental management during the occupation and operations, for construction time and how to operation. Some information about generic. CMP, constructions, to be specific on that. Constructions or contract, EMP. So to be prepared by the contractors before beginning of the development sites, and often a part of the contract documents, and the contract documents will have that. SEMP, site EMP, prepared by site owners or operators, persons who are operators and site owners. They are prepared by them. Long-term environmental maintenance and management of the site. just a construction part, it is a maintenance part, management side. The constructors, contractors will do that. This will be people who are operating and owners. They will do that. We staying there and operating this. The long term, this short term. HEMP, handover EMP. For design and building contracts, build contracts. Design contracts and build contracts. Means designers and builders. So they provide you layouts, and that's it. That job is over. Preparation prepared by the contractor on completion and construction. After completion, they will give you handover EMP management plan, which has to follow for future environmental maintenance and management. It should be followed. So it's just document provided to the owners or operators by the contractors at the end. WMP, waste management plan. What it does, that identifies that all types of waste arising, their management, documentation, and treatment and disposal. It's only for waste only, based on requirement of the Environmental Protection Acts. So based on Environmental Protection Act, this is prepared. So WMP. TMP, traffic MP, identifies safe and agreed routing of traffic during construction operation. So while construction operations, some movement all taking place by trafficking. What is safe routing? So that is also part of management plan, traffic management plan. It includes any restriction on timing and access, what time we come, what time we don't go, which vehicles, which routes, all things will provide that. So there are different types of management plans. Then ESEM. Yes. So it provides checklist for regulations, commitment for mitigations, and starting point of the tender specifications. Okay. So this regulators means this is a non-statement non-management plan. So that is regulators means they manage government sectors. So they have a checklist. So where they see the mitigation is followed or not. Starting point, because in environment statement already you are giving mitigation measures. So EMP, ESEMP will that documents by which they will be verify that checklist by which they will verify that called ESEMP. Starting points, so the tender specification from that, tender specification from that onward they'll keep on checking. A contract EMP provides CMP. So that's CMP, contract EMP. CMP provides communication systems, environmental policy statements, method statements, CVS, and training and auditing and monitoring. So you'll use a personal recruitment training, auditing and monitoring, checking of method statements, what are the procedures, and all policy documents, what are the policies to be followed, and the communication system. Everything part of the contract. So annual management plans. So like previously, I've given more description which you can go through. By the way, these previous units I have little more elaborate. This bit video, whatever I described is PowerPoints on previous units. I've changed this to make it more easy for you to understand that. And similarly, in fact, I have given in previous fourth unit I have given about this net present values or internal rate of return. So all the things I have given the formula more specific, which is much more clear. You can know that how if you put these values, what is the rate of returns and what is the present values at time t, automatically net present values you can find out based on that. Similarly, if you put n net present value equal to 0, I mean net in that case, that means at what time it will be, you will not have any profit further. It just will get neutralized. So what duration will be able to get no profit. So net present value will become 0 at that time. You are not getting something more that time. So in that case, you calculate what is the term, what is the time in which it will possible. So net rate of returns. What is the rate in which it should come. So anyway, so you can have a look these things. Okay, coming back here. There is no universally accepted standard formats for EMPs. The format needs to be fit to the circumstances into which the EMP is being developed and requirements which it is designed to meet. So World Bank has given the statements. According to the World Bank 1999, EMPs should contain the following components. Not format, but this should be there. Summary impacts. So predicted negative impacts especially. Then description of mitigation measures, what mitigation measures are taking. Should be described in details and to be accompanied by designs, equipment description, operating procedure, all this. Then EM discussions. No official need for auditing or monitoring site activities in ES. then official need for that. But requirement EMP, environment management plan, before the work becomes code of practice. Gas and oil industry in particular. So it has to be, it's definitely necessary. Not that there is somebody come and auditing every time, but this document should be prepared. EMP is to develop through the consultation between the designer, regulators. Regulator means government. Designer means the persons who are employed for designing that, and authorities and local communities, local people. Authorities means those people are owners. EMP to achieve the objectives, to identify predictions of the in the environment statement which may need specific condition, consents and license, to ensure that contract documents and detailed designs addresses the relevant mitigation measures. EMP achieves, and what is the objective continuing that. So what is the objective to achieve? To provide specific method statements for procedures working on your sensitive areas, so they should give procedures for that. To ensure that developers and contractors are clear about the mitigation commitment and means of that, what is the commitment and how do they accomplish that, are they clear about that. To ensure that the systems are in place to resolve any potential problems associated with site activities. Any problem suddenly come up, systems are in place to tackle that. To comply with the relevant legislation, standards and guidelines. Clear? So approach EMP becomes more relevant because the contractor take the responsibility for the preparation of environment statements, and the EMP is in parallel, and thus ensuring integration of environmental risk minimizations. Because we already promised for mitigations in ES itself, and EMP gives more details, procedures for carrying out that, procedure, process, protocols, and all details, outlines will be provided. Here it is here. Designs, so equipment discussion, operating procedure, all these things will be there. So these things are taken into account. Okay. MBS tended to focus on pollution prevention and control, but also used for promoting sustainable use of resources. This is only misused, and pollution control is main thing. EMP encompasses other issues which may be raised during the consultations. ES makes commitment to sustainable principles. So CMP, contract EMP. So this is a consultation of the license arrangements. License arrangement describes the maintenance of the consultation process with residents, regulatory authorities throughout the duration of the project. So it is, we have residents and regulatory authorities. So that throughout the program, what should be followed? Contract. Set up a license group to advise and monitor the environmental concerns during the construction activities. Advise locals in disturbing activities. Provide contact details for compliance procedures. Local people should be informed about any disturbing activities, and any complaint that should be procured. The methods use all measures agreed during the EIA with the regulatory authorities. What EIA whatever methods you propose, agree on that, following that. So it can address soil handling, storage, reinstatement habitats, waste management plan, noise prevention abatement, protection of existing habitat species, implementation of new planting and seeding. All the things are promised. Landscape ecology management plan, use of herbicides, public rights of way, pollution control emergency procedures, archaeological management, drainage features, working times, construction compounds, hall routes, borrow pits, laydown areas and batching plans, traffic management plans, energy and other resources. All these different aspects which have been promised in EIA. Some specific contents of the above. Archaeological management is one of the things. Arrangement for advanced work, watching drifts and protection of the archaeological features, phasing and recording the archaeological activities. So here are some elaboration of that. Pollution control and contingency plan, sensitive or vulnerable receptors, natural features, working methods to minimize it. So you have to sensitive about that, receptors and natural features, and also working methods to minimize the environmental risk. It also should have detailed procedures to use the materials and incident notification procedures for regulators, and then record pollution control equipments and procedures. CMP all contents also include the environmental policy. We discussed about that. What is policies? Environmental policies of the contractor developer, any certification under an accreditation systems, compliance with the industry codes of practice, shows commitment to the highest standards of environment performance, and compliance with the legislative requirements. Then for environmental personnel who are involved there, their CVs, to ensure that such staffs have relevant knowledge, experience, and authority to monitor, audit, and rectify the environmental issues. And training, introduction training in accordance with the environmental management plans for site personnel, appropriate design staffs, and relevant visitors. Applies particularly to subcontractors because they will be directly handling with materials things. Contractors will overall, subcontractors will very specific areas they're dealing with in their domains of contract. So they should be trained, and it should be others. When visitors also can be auditing and monitoring a plan to be prepared. Auditing monitoring plans, how the site activities are monitored, what type of monitoring system, how frequency of assessment, auditing checks, who undertakes them and responsible, who was in charge of that, what is the responsibility for that, reporting and action procedures, who may report, what is the report, what type of actions can be taken based on reports. All the things should be part of this. Then SCMP or HCMP, handover EMP or strategic EMP. So in this case, you provide long-term maintenance because this by the individuals who are staying, operators or owners. So long-term maintenance. Not contract is just for finishing step and some guidance for that, but some long-term operations. Management or relating to the environmental issues of the site. SK strategies for all areas and record how they will be achieved together with appropriate timetables and programs. Can be undertaken by range of organizations, but usually contracted by the specialist companies. Particular concern is to involve residents of the occupant. This is very important. Residents and occupiers in the formulations and implementation of the plans, because without their help, it is not possible to do that. Continuing. So this includes monitoring and maintenance of new plantations, management existing hedge rows and woodlands, bushes and woodlands are there. So that don't destroy that. Maintenance of pollution control systems, including oil interceptors. Maintenance of domestic sewage treatment plants. Maintenance of sustainable drainage systems, especially flood elevation ponds. They're monitoring water quality, species, habitats, etc. Energy and water resource use, and waste management. So the other different components which comes under this strategic EMP or handover EMP. So there are different. This is management review, environmental policies, based on review policies, and policy gives you the planning, environmental aspects, objectives and target, environmental management programs, and based on that the implementation operations, based on that they keep on checking work. Not again based on checking again community management review. Again it's guides for the policies. So this is a continuous improvement. So this is the company levels EMS model. Company level this model, so environmental management systems model based on the ISO 14001 standards. Now implementation of a large and complex projects, in that case what will happen here? Construction, operation, decommissioning, the phases are there. They are all connected with each other. So the planning stage will be go very detailed. Just not implementation, planning with the construction, the operation, the decommissioning, each of them. Again construction and environmental management programs will be there. For operations the environmental management program is there. For decommission also environmental management program will be there. How to operate, how to decommission, and how to construct. Construct to be more specific, environmental management plans for solid waste management, environmental management plan for wastewater management. So all these components are the environmental management plan only. So this type of detailed analysis in a complex project comes under this complex projects. Large and complex projects comes in this categories. So this is how it's taken care of. Prepare my environmental management plan. How do you prepare that? So it is required for formulation, implementation, and monitoring environmental protection measures during and after the commissioning of the projects. Okay? That we already discussed. So how do you prepare that? The various stages: conceptualization, preliminary environmental assessment, then planning, detailed studies on environmental impacts and design safeguards, then execution, implementation, environmental safety measures, and operation, monitoring the effectiveness of the build and safeguards. What is safeguarding? how effective it is. Operations include monitoring also. The management plan should be necessarily based on consideration resource conservation and pollution abatement. See these two coming: resource conservation, pollution abatement. Some future will be made under. Okay, so for conceptualization of this, then planning for that, and executing that, and operating, ensuring it's operated. So this is some of the summary of the impacts, predicted negatives, impacts, the description of the mitigation measures. Okay, and technical aspect implementing the mitigation measures should be described. Description of the monitoring programs. This should be part of that. Institutional arrangements, responsibility for the mitigation and monitoring action should be clearly defined. Who is provided for responsibility? Legal enforceability. So what is the legal framework within which they have to operate? So this is clear. Procedure to provide information on the progress and results of mitigation and monitoring measures should also clearly be specified. How do you report it? How it's working or not? They're following or not? Cost estimate. Cost should be calculated for both the initial investment and recurring expenses. After the feasibility and design stage of the project, the projects which are significant negative impacts are subject to EIA. Okay, if they're not significant negative impact, then not to give. That we already discussed in the first phase. In the first phase EIA itself, we go to second phase, detail EIA only when significant negative impacts are there, or in the categories mentioned there, or in a sensitive area. We will discuss about that. For projects of this type, which are undertaken frequently, and which requires authorizations, it may be advisable to develop the EMP as part of the environmental impact report. This ensures that mitigation, monitoring, and management considerations form part of the documentation used for decision making. This has the benefit of giving the authority some assurance that mitigation measures proposed during EIA will be implemented during the construction and operation phase of the project. Okay, so developing EMP as part of environmental report will give confidence that at least mitigation will be taken as an integral part of this decision making, taken care of. So authorities will have conviction for that. The benefits of including EMP in the part of EIA: encouraging applications to be more systematic and explicit in designs. Similarly, it also encouraging authorities to check the practicalities. It also ensures that the mitigation measures are properly covered because the steps are there. Encouraging the project proponents to meet the requirements. It need not be having EMP the part of EIA, because mitigation measures are there, but detailed EMP report may not be part of EIA. But if you give, these are further advantages. Encourage the project proponents to meet the requirement, because it's clear. Forcing the project proponent to finalize the environmental impacts, internal environmental impacts, because it's forced to do that. So they are the advantage of that, which other will become social cost. So guidelines formulation, implementation EMP, you can go through that. How do you formulate? What some guidance for to obtain a comprehensive understanding of that? Identify specific environmental risk issues. Develop a suite of environmental controls. And then when designing EMP questions to run, what type, what scale of construction, what is sensitivity of that, and potential environmental risk for that, mitigation measures, practical mitigation measures, and what are the method statements, what are the different construction operation procedures, material and equipment what are used, how and where the materials will be stored, action to contain leaks or spills and all things, the timing and location of construction, all things. Identify the allocation roles with allocate what responsibilities, establish monitoring programs, specify mechanism for achieving the compliance, develop environmental awareness program. All of them should be part of EMP. Legal frameability, enforceability of environmental management plan. What is legal enforceability? In South Africa, EMP has increasingly become. This is not in India, so India is not forced. I'm just talking about some of the countries. South Africa especially, EMP has increasingly become the part of the conditions of the approval for the development. The project proponent cannot delegate accountability for the compliance to individual subcontractors. So you cannot say that. You have to. Project proponent has to do. The contractors did not do. They cannot say. Okay, so legal enforceability there. India, it is still not legal enforceability. To ensure compliance, yeah, it is more optional, but it is a preferable optional because the EIA will be clear, and anytime they can verify is there, but not a systematic. Report has to submit it systematically, their own verifications, by their own assessments. Okay, so I am skipping this part. We can go through types and environmental management plans. The three broad types: one constructing EMP, the operation EMP, and decommissioning EMP. The The three objectives in MPs are the same, namely to identify the possible environmental impacts and proposed activities, develop measures to minimize, mitigate activities. What is the type of environmental impact possible and how to mitigate it? That's all at a construction phase or operation phase or decommissioning phase. When this MP is related to the difference in mitigation actions required for the different, because different stages, different activities, so different actions will require to mitigate it. Let's say construction phase EMP. So what does it involve? It involves identify the specific activities, potential impacts that requires the management, determine the mitigation measures to be implemented, identify the performance of the indicator, how to evaluate the performance which indicator, identify who would be responsible for that, identify who would be responsible for monitoring, implement monitoring. So you see, very important. Persons were identified, the methods are identified, and indicators identified to find it out, and what the activities to be to be clearly mentioned, protocols to be mentioned. So all the things are very, very important. Everywhere the same thing is done. Operation phase, specific guidance related to the operational activities. Okay, roles and responsibilities. Same thing of the mitigation, monitoring, and performance assessment for the operational life of the development as specified in the MP. Decommissioning stage. So you'll find that the final phase of project cycle, the decommissioning may present positive and environmental opportunity associated with the return of the land alternative. So if everything over decommissioned, then land is brought back to the alternative use, and the cessation impact associated with the operational activities. However, depending on the nature of the operational activities, they need to manage risk and potential residual impacts may remain well after the operation. Sometimes it will happen. Like some mining areas, you've taken something, even if you have a refilling of these things, still then some type of seismic effects may be there, and some type other effects will be because they affected the entire lithology quite a bit. So these type of things can happen. But commissioning means retrieving back. Project is over and it's coming back. Decommissioning, I'm saying. So this is also a part of that. Then strategy management. Strategic environmental management plan. What is strategic environmental plan? They commonly refer to a process for assessing the environmental consequence of the policies, plans, and programs. PPP. Policies, plans, and programs. SEA. Strategic environmental assessment or management. SEA has been identified as an appropriate instrument for incorporating the environmental aspects into strategic planning procedures. So this SEA, socio-economic assessment or social impact assessment, SI or SEA. So it is not intended that SEA should be replace EIA. Rather, SEA, strategy environmental assessment, streamlines the project. So it's not replacing EIA, but it streamlines the projects. The assessment providing an effective instruments on environmental assessment at the plan and programs levels. So the strategic assessment, strategic environmental assessment will provide more supports to EIA, more clarity to EIA. SEA may be in context of lower level of planning and provide input to the higher and more strategic level, DAT and CSR 2020. So this is a reference I'm taking. However, since the SEA informs the EIA processes, which in turn inform the guides, EMP, SEA establishes sound basis for the mitigations, monitoring and management at the project level. So you can go through the SCMP has increasingly become used in South Korea. So these most of the contents for this report are taken South Korea. That is South Korea words keeps on appearing. But these are also applicable in India case, although it is not still not under legal framework. The conceptual point of view is given nicely. That's why I have taken from these concepts from South African publications. So they see a strategy and environmental management plans, because India it is not so well designed, not available for that. So then this is the strategic environmental management plans. So there are different criteria for project level EIA, roles and responsibilities, cumulative impacts, regional standards, carrying capacity, how much it can withstand, and limit and acceptable changes, and special development frameworks, how to develop overall. So this is the strategic. And then at lower level of that is called project level, because the strategic is a total plans, but inside the small projects are component of that. So project level will be strategy covers entire schemes of plans, but project level means it's project activity levels. So design guidelines, detailed environmental management systems, CMS based on the 2001, detailed mitigation monitoring measures, and feedback to higher levels. So these are the project level activities, these strategic level activities. integration of EMP into the operations. EMP should not become an additional requirement separate from the day-to-day activities of a site. If EMP becomes another layer of control of the staff, the staff will soon see it as an obstruction for normal. So it should be part of that. It should be part of the culture. People see that. That's the concept. You can go through. EMP shifts to the focus of this operation to places a slightly different emphasis on the operations and the role of the many individuals, how the role feel. It's even empowering the people to act more in a conscious way. So implementation monitoring. Proper implementation is a very crucial part of EMP management plans. Allows the ongoing impact to be tracked. That effectiveness mitigation can be measured. And developing monitoring program. So specify management objectives, specify the monitoring objectives, specify the scope of monitoring, recommend the appropriate monitoring technology. You can see very much similar conceptual understanding, right? In decision making, define the spatial boundaries and the sites of observations, select the key indicators, define how the data will be analyzed, define the precisions and accuracy required, consider the compatibility of the data, set the minimum requirements. See, this way of thing is very important. Okay, tomorrow you may have to deal with many different situations, and you know how to think, what are the different components of thoughts, because these similar schemes will be you have to revisit again many different situations or many different decisions, many different projects. So it's better to have a better understanding in a structural way, functional understanding of this point, not just few points, listing of points. It is applicable in every field practically. The framework process of developing EMP and monitoring the programs. Goal of EMP, what is standards, what is management objectives, what is specific requirements for monitoring and performance assessment. You can go through this. The document is very important for you because you will be able to get frame of what you discussed so far just in one page. That monitoring data collection. We already discussed that, so I am not covering that. The monitoring data collections. Monitoring should detect the trends and changes, enable the intervention of remedial measures. So you are doing mitigation means some intervention done, some remedial measures taken. So whether getting good environmental performance or not. So that data has to be collected to show that. So realistic sampling program you have to do for temperament, time, place and space, a different location and different timing and different point data you have to collect. Realistically do that. And collection of quality data, not just IV data, proper analyzed data, properly collected data, compatible with new data with the historical data, and cost-effective data collections. So not so very costly methods. Quality control measurements and analysis, appropriate database capture, stores, retrieve, and display, reporting the internal management and external auditing. Ideally, monitoring data should be presented in the form of maps, photography records, data tables, and graphs, because it is more visual, more graphic, more clear to visible. So here is one format how you collect it. Environmental components, monitoring frequency, monitoring method, data capture, what data will capture, environmental actions. You see that? Monitoring boreholes, how long, monthly, what levels taken from that, how to do that, from the data, flow rates, pump rate, all the things, and how to capture data in the spreadsheets. So this and any remedial actions, sometimes required some actions. So you can go through this. Very interesting. How will you have structure of that, structured approach of doing that. And one awareness training, and that is very important because that awareness is crucial for that. Workforce should also go through that. Then we have periodic audits to verify if they are taking place or not. Is the requirement, EPA requirement. And audits identify existing and potential problems on environment and determines what action needed to comply with the legal requirement. Some it working properly or not, so auditing will check that one. Public involvement EMPs. Public is not directly involved into the development of EMP, but public issues and concerns are expressed in the EIA process. And so public will be usually helpful to check it is working properly, but there are on confidence and trust also. You can go through this. And environmental management. In summary, EMS gives confidence to regulators and the community. Environmental management reduces the risk of pollution and improves the sustainability management of resources, provide commitment for the implementation of mitigation ES, and EMPs are relevant for a variety of developers, contract regulators. Already is on this slide before. It's just a summary to assess because we have already covered that. So the conclusions: the development and implementation of successful EMP has benefits beyond merely meeting the legal obligations. Okay, it's not just obligation to meet. It contributes to the environmental awareness of the workforce. It can facilitate the prevention of the environmental degradation and minimize the impacts when they are unavoidable. So this culture is inserted, the awareness inserted. That's very important. Okay, you can go through the details. And thank you. Okay, just last line I will say. An EMP can cover all company and site activities from construction to operation to decommissioning. An EMP can ensure good environmental performance and improve the community relations. An EMP facilitates progress towards the environmental targets and provides tools for the continuous improvement of the company's environmental performances. The key of a successful EMP is commitment at all levels of management and the workforce. The integration of EMP into daily operation is very, very crucial. So this is all purpose EMP. Okay, thank you.